Oi, gente, boa tarde, tudo bem? Meu nome é Simone Ferreira, eu sou orientadora do EducationUSA e eu estou gravando essa session, espero que vocês estejam de acordo. Estou gravando essa session para ficar colocar lá no nosso site. Mas é um prazer, queria dizer para vocês que é um prazer estar aqui hoje, falar um pouquinho para vocês do EducationUSA e também fazer essa apresentação com o Michael Bussell e com o Steve Bergman. Eu já vou passar para inglês, mas queria falar para vocês que EducationUSA é a fonte oficial de informações sobre estudos nos Estados Unidos. Nós somos um órgão ligado ao Departamento de Estado americano que orienta pessoas que querem estudar nos Estados Unidos, tá? So, it's a pleasure to have, to host the session today, and we are going to be talking about improving your chances when applied to U.S. graduate programs. And we have two great presenters here, very experienced presenters with us from an excellent institution, which is North Carolina State University, Michael Bussell and Steve Bergman. So I'm going to mute my mic. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to be around, but I'm going to be quiet here. So guys, thank you so much for, taking your time to share your expertise and experience with students. So the floor is yours. I'm going to mute my mic.
Okay. Well, thank you, Simone. It's a pleasure to be with you. My name is Michael, and Steve and I would love to hear your questions. We will have some time for questions and answers at the end. It's a general presentation that will help you be more competitive when you apply for graduate programs. We know some of you have already applied or you're applying now. Some of you are thinking about applying in the future. We hope that you will consider NC State University, but what we will share with you will be helpful no matter where you go to school, where you apply. You need to go wherever is best for you. I'm going to share my screen and Steve is going to begin talking. And then we will go back and forth we will look forward to your questions at the end. And this is a chance to ask any questions you want, tips, advice, information we have. I know I've been advising international students for 35 years, more years than you've been alive, and have helped tens of thousands of students from 100 different countries. And it's my joy, my honor to help international students with their career choices, their academic choices. So we're going to have a good time. So, Steve, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself and start, and just let me know when you want me to advance the slides.
Sounds great. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Stephen. Like Michael, I've worked in education for quite a while. I'm on year 10 of working with international students or US students who are traveling abroad. Have worked with high school students, university undergraduate students, and graduate students, and now work at NC State with a small segment of our international students, sponsored students. But like Michael, I just love talking to students, and I love talking about academic programs, and I like talking about university. Undergraduate and graduate studies are, they can be very stressful, but very exciting at the same time. And we just want to provide you with some information that can help make this process a little bit easier and give you something to think about as you get ready to apply for your graduate program. So Michael, if you can switch it to slide 2, that'd be great. Michael, is there a way that we can change that? I've lost about half of the slide. Let me see if I can change that here. If not, I'll try to work with what I've got.
Let's see. Does that look better?
Let me see here. Yeah, a little bit. Let's work with that. So as you get ready to apply for your graduate studies, there are a lot of things that you should be thinking about and a lot of things that you should consider. And one of the good ways to start is by asking yourself questions, some really difficult questions to ask yourself about what you want from graduate studies and what you want from the university and what you want in your life after you're done with your graduate studies. So really asking yourself, what are the best kinds of graduate programs for me? And that's thinking about, what are you interested in studying? What's available in your field? And finding out about the faculty and the professors that you could be working with at any particular university. And then thinking about, what about you gives you the best chance to increase your success of getting admitted to a university? What are the things in your background, your academic background, professional background, research, that gives you the best opportunity of getting admitted to your school? And then thinking about, what happens if I don't get in anywhere? What can I do to make myself better in the future? Is graduate school something that I should be pursuing? Is the field that I've selected the right one? Maybe there's something better. If you get offers from multiple schools, what do you do? What's the best way to proceed? So how do you choose the right program at the right school? What do you do if you don't like the program that you selected and you've arrived at the university? What if you do not like your advisor, or if you have a problem with the department? And then, what if you don't succeed? What if you show up to graduate school and you struggle and you face academic difficulty, or you struggle to adjust? So being able to ask questions like these of yourself before you even start to apply, or once you're on campus, can be very beneficial to making you feel a little more prepared, but also give you a sense of control over your academic and professional destiny. And then the last one is obviously really important. How do you afford it if you get in? And what kind of financial aid or scholarships are available? And I think we talk about that later on in this slide. I think one of the key things to touch on is that scholarships are one form of financial aid, but there are many forms of aid that can be provided by the university. So really diving into it, which program is right for me, or which program is right for you? So one of the best ways to do that is think about what you want to be doing long-term. If that's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, where do you want to be? And then working backwards from that, what kind of academic background does somebody in that job or in that role need? Where can you secure that kind of academic background? What kind of skills, knowledge, ability, mindset do you need when you get into that role? Think about everything, all the positives, all of the negatives that any school would offer, or any program. Don't just think about the really obvious things like national ranking, or the biggest financial aid package, because as you start to consider cost, and as you start to consider the possibility of aid, and as you consider national ranking, those are only a few things, but the departments can be very large, and very specific subjects can be higher ranked than the national, or than the department's whole ranking. So really start to think about all of the things that you have in this program. So what kind of advisor or mentor do you want to work with? That can be really important. What kind of connections does your faculty or your department have to industry or to opportunities on campus or in the community? What kind of, drawing a blank here, Michael, what kind of opportunities do you want to have for research within your department? What kind of subspecialties are you looking for? What kind of connections do you want to take forward? If you're pursuing a master's degree, does this program offer a PhD opportunity or a PhD track? Does your faculty have a connection to another university that you could use? Does your professor have a connection to any national scientific programs or scholarship programs or fellowship opportunities that can carry you into the next stage of your life? So thinking about things like that can be really beneficial. And then graduate programs these days are a lot more fluid than they used to be. So whereas in the past, you would enter graduate school, you'd work for 2 to 4 years in your graduate studies and then leave and find a job, now it's a lot more fluid. So some students will enter and take a leave of absence to do research and then come back and finish their degrees. Some students will enter, do 2 years in a PR and a master's degree, leave, and then come back again for their PhD. So there are lots of opportunities to enter and exit a graduate program now than in the past. And so you need to be thinking about that in or as you start thinking about the specific programs that you're looking at entering. And then other factors to think about, how long does it take to get a degree? If you have to pay for a degree full cost yourself, that can be a big factor to think about. If somebody else is paying for it, or if you're getting a scholarship or financial aid through a teaching assistantship, maybe that's not as important to you. Or maybe it is. Maybe you want to spend 2, 4, 5 years in the United States living in a different country, living in a different city. Very important to think about. The university's reputation and the reputation of the program that you are pursuing can also be important. While a slide ago I said ranking shouldn't be everything, ranking can still be important, as other institutions, employers place stock into rankings. And so being aware that sometimes rankings do matter. Usually top 300, 400, 500 in the world, nobody's going to complain, nobody's going to bat an eye about your program. If you go to a school that the program is brand new and does not have a reputation and does not have a ranking, that's something you want to think about, because you could find that people don't know about the program and don't necessarily know how to value your degree. If you are especially in a research-focused program like a Master of Science program or a PhD program, think about the research facilities and the connections to research outside of the university as well. Do you have access to top-tier research and laboratory facilities on campus? Off campus, do you have connections to industry that can help build upon your research? Thinking about your community, safety and quality of life. You're going to spend a minimum of 2 and possibly as many as 6 years at your school, depending on the type of degree that you're pursuing. So really thinking about the community as well as the university can really help. Is it safe near campus? Is the city considered safe? What kinds of opportunities do you have to get out and enjoy the city in which you're living? While you will be a student, you aren't a student 24/7, 365 days of the year. So what kinds of things can you do? What kind of extracurricular or personal or leisure activities can you do in your community? Just going to highlight Raleigh. I think you're 2.5 hours from the beach, 2.5 hours from the mountains. If you really wanted to, you could go swimming in the morning and hiking in the afternoon up in the mountains. So really think about what kind of opportunities are near you. We're a city of, I think, 1.5 million people. So there's a lot to do, a big bustling international and research scene. So as you start thinking about the school, think about what else is around. And then proximity to family and friends. Most places are connected by airplane now, so that's less traumatic or stark of a contrast. But if you're going to a small school in the Midwest, or you're going to a small school somewhere where you don't have ready access to an airport that can get you to where you're going, you have to think about driving and how far that is and how far you are from family, friends. So keep things like that in mind as well. And then job prospects and professional networks. Depending on your university, most universities will have some level of connections to industry, but it's much easier to do that in a place where you have access just down the road or on campus or around the corner than to be at a school that is in the middle of nowhere. So really trying to see what's available near campus. And I would recommend that if you start thinking about this and as you start looking at prospects and professional networks, talk to your academic advisors, talk to some of the faculty if you're reaching out to them, and learn what they have to say about what kind of opportunities they have and connections that they have to industry at your desired schools. Most university faculty will tell you what kind of connections that they have, or will even say, yes, we can work with you to build those connections with the community. And then the last thing is, how will you pay for it? Again, some schools will provide you with scholarships. Others will provide you with teaching assistantships or research assistantships, depending on the type of degree that you're pursuing. At NC State, these can cover anything from partial tuition to full tuition. Michael, I don't know, do they cover all room and board as well? I don't think they do at the graduate level.
Well, they'll offer, many departments, as part of their graduate assistantship, will offer a stipend, which will pay for room and board. So there are many international graduate students who really don't pay anything because the university will pay all of their expenses. But there are a lot of different funding sources, funding streams, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah. So again, as you start thinking about how will you pay for it and what is going to be the cost, what's going to be the cost at the end of your graduate degree, start to consider things like how you're going to be able to afford graduate school, because graduate school can be expensive depending on what you're pursuing, where you're pursuing it, and the kinds of financial aid available to you. So while I would recommend you don't use that as the single defining factor, it is something to keep in mind as you start exploring, because it can be expensive. And most Americans can take 5 to 10 years to pay for their graduate school, depending on how they cover it and how they fund it. So as an international student, you'd have to fund that either yourself or through some kind of additional aid from the university or an external scholarship source. So just keep that in mind.
Very good. The last point on that slide there is something that I also wanted to talk about, and that is there is a lot of flexibility and ability to change. It's great if whatever decisions you make are the best and the right decisions for you, and you can continue with that. But the fact is, nobody knows the future, and you don't know what the best program is, and you will be making a lot of decisions and a lot of choices. And one of the nice things about the U.S. culture is we are a culture of change and innovation. Mm-hmm. Many college students, including graduate students, will change as information changes, circumstances change, you get more knowledge, you get better advice. So you can start down one path, and it's okay to turn left or to turn right and to make some changes. So that's not a bad thing in the United States. I know in many countries, many cultures, you don't have as many opportunities to change things in the middle of a program. Once you begin it, you have to end it, or you have to start over again. But as Stephen said, graduate education is very expensive in the United States, so you don't want to waste time, you don't want to waste your money. You want to make the best decisions you can. But think about, when you look at different programs, think about which programs will give you the opportunity to change. If you start a PhD program and you decide that you don't want it, can you finish with a master's degree and then move somewhere else? Or can you pick up a minor or some other program while you're in the PhD program? Will you have the ability to change your academic advisor, your research topic? And some, universities are like families and cultures. They have different personalities. Each department has different personalities. And it's very difficult to know before you go there what it's like. So again, do your research, get as much information as you can, and think about what's important to you. If you want, go ahead, Steve.
I was saying, and do not be afraid to reach out to folks at the universities and ask questions. You may not reach out to the right person to begin with, but most university staff and faculty are happy to connect you to somebody who can answer your questions. So if you have a question about a program, or you have questions about campus or the community or the flexibility within a degree, feel free to reach out and ask. Somebody will help connect you or get you the right answer.
Right. So, there are a lot of universities in the United States. There's more than 3,000 good universities and colleges, and it's difficult to choose. You do need to do your research. You need to do your homework. Unfortunately, there is no one good place where you can get all the answers to your questions. It's going to require a lot of work on your part to do Google searches, talking to the different resources you have. One of the best resources you have is the EducationUSA office there in Rio or whatever city you're in. They will not recommend one school over another necessarily, but they will give you resources and information and links and suggestions and advice on the best way to find the best programs for you. As Steve said, it's not always the #1 ranked program. There may be many other conditions or variables that would lead you to go to another program. Another great thing is all U.S. universities do have a lot of information online. So you can go to the websites of the universities, and there will be a lot of information on how to apply, to whom you should address your questions, a lot of facts and figures that will help you make some good decisions. All universities have online graduate admission application mechanisms and platforms. Everybody uses an online mechanism. There are several large companies that do that. There are, there's Slate. There's a number of different programs, but they all operate the same. And all university admission offices will give you a listing of things that you need to do. Please read those, follow those carefully. You would be surprised how many students start an application and never finish it, or they forget certain aspects of it, or they don't pay attention to the deadlines. It's not complicated, really, and I won't spend a lot of time going through all of the steps because they're almost always the same. I'll highlight a few things, but be sure to fill out the application form. You will need to upload transcripts. If you haven't finished your program and don't have a final formal transcript, don't worry about it. Send what you have. You can always add things later to your application, but get all of your supplemental information in before the deadline. There are some standardized test scores, but remember that different schools, different universities, and even different graduate programs may have different requirements. In our College of Design, you need to submit a portfolio. If you apply for electrical computer engineering, you must send in the GRE score. If you're applying for an education program, the GRE is optional. You don't need to send a GRE score. So read the specific requirements for that particular program at that particular university and don't make any assumptions. Even if you don't have a GRE score or a recent TOEFL or IELTS score, go ahead and apply. Maybe your scores are out of date or you haven't taken the test yet. Get everything in you can and communicate with the director of graduate programs. Remember, different from the undergraduate program, it's the director of graduate admissions or the director of graduate programs at U.S. universities that make the decision, not an admissions office somewhere else. If you communicate, they know to look for it. They can give you advice. And remember that some programs do have a minimum score below which they will not consider your application. Sometimes this is based on their experience. Sometimes it's based on just the quantity of applications. We're here to help you make your application really competitive and help you stand out as an applicant. Some universities and some departments and programs get tens of thousands of applications. So they don't read them all. How can they read tens of thousands of applications? But you need to make sure that your application gets read. So if you have a very high GRE score or a very high TOEFL or IELTS score, that's great. You went to a wonderful #1 university in Brazil, or you have a wonderful GPA, those are all good. Get as high a score as you can. I don't want to minimize the importance of really good test scores and really good grade point averages, but it's not the only thing. At both undergraduate and graduate levels, the admission process in the United States at almost all institutions and all programs take a holistic view of you, the applicant. So they're looking at everything. At a minimum, you have to have the application in and all the supporting documentation in. But there's no GRE score that will guarantee you admission. There's no TOEFL or IELTS score that will guarantee you admission. And even if they recommend a minimum TOEFL score or an IELTS score of 6.5 or 6.0 or 5.5, even if you are a little bit below that, if that's the program you really want to go to, communicate with that director graduate program, because sometimes they can and they do make exceptions based on the other parts of your application. So don't give up, don't lose hope, and don't count on your scores alone being what will guarantee you admission. I'll talk a little bit more about what direct to graduate program are looking for in a successful applicant. And if you, in some places, the TOEFL or IELTS might not be offered often. Many universities use other tests. For example, NC State's beginning to use Duolingo tests. A number of universities are using that. Online test, you get the results the next day. I think it only costs $45 or $50. So again, read the application procedures and instructions on the website.
Yep. And
your letters.
Sorry, go ahead, Michael. I was going to just say that you can also, a lot of universities this year are waiving GRE requirements because COVID has closed so many testing centers. So if you do have questions about that, contact your university and your graduate program to find out.
Another tip that's not on the slide here is, graduate applications are down. The numbers are down everywhere. And U.S. graduate programs are very, very concerned. Not just about COVID, we'll talk about COVID in a little bit. So actually, now is the best time ever to apply for a graduate admission because the standards are, this is a secret, but they're a little bit lower. We're a little bit hungrier, the number of applications are down, and we're concerned about attrition or the reduction of students who will actually matriculate. So your chances of applying for a great graduate program are better now than ever before. This year, it's a bonus. One of the benefits, I guess, of all the craziness that's going on is that it's easier to apply. My son just applied for several graduate programs. He applied to 6 schools, and I thought they were out of his league. I didn't think he would be admitted. He was applying to very highly ranked programs, and he got admitted to every school and was given financial aid offers. And he's a smart kid. I really think he worked hard. I don't want to minimize his efforts, but I couldn't believe he was getting into all of these really, really famous schools, highly ranked schools that I think 2 years ago he might not have gotten into. So take that as a little bit of hope and apply now, even if you're not ready. Letters of recommendation are just as important as your English scores, your GPA. They really do read letters of recommendation. They do need to be from faculty members, people who know you're academic, don't get your parents or your uncle to write a letter. And be sure that whomever you ask to write that letter of recommendation, which by the way is generally online, they have to do it online, has a very positive, favorable view of you, because they will be asked questions like, are they in the top 10% of your class? Do they, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much leadership potential do they have? They're talking about responsibility and creativity. And again, I have seen many recommendations for scholarships or admission where the recommender is very honest and they say, this student is not in the top 50% of the class, or I do not recommend this student for graduate admission. If you get a negative recommendation like that, you're not getting in. And I don't know why these students thought to ask somebody, maybe they were famous in their school or something, to write a letter of recommendation when they didn't have the confidence that they were going to get a positive recommendation. So choose your recommenders wisely. And perhaps the most important part of the application of all is your statement of purpose. The statement of purpose is more than just a cover letter in a job interview. Admissions directors look at the statement of purpose for a couple of things. They want to make sure that you're going to be successful. If they don't think you'll be successful in the program, during your program and after you graduate and leave and become a leader in industry or academia, they don't want you in the program. They're taking chances on you, just like you're taking a chance on them. So they're looking for diversity. They're looking for people who don't always think the same or look the same or act the same or go about doing research the same way. That's another reason why a lot of universities in the US we don't hire our own graduates. If you get a PhD from NC State, you won't get a job as a professor at NC State. You need to go somewhere else and be a postdoc for a while. We want people from different backgrounds, different countries, different cultures, because that will make us stronger. It will make us more comprehensive, and it will challenge us to not be lazy and to be the same and homogeneous. So your statement of purpose needs to articulate and demonstrate why you're such an interesting person and why you need to be at this program. What do you contribute, and how will the program contribute to you being successful in and after your program? So many students take the statement of purpose and they're very boring. You know, the statements are very boring. They'll say, well, I've always wanted to be a math teacher. I love math, and I know I can get a good job if I get a math degree from your university. Okay, that's boring, right? A statement of purpose, you have to have a passion. It's also your opportunity to explain something that might be a little bit different. So if you were a late bloomer, for example, your first 2 years in college, you were in a program, you didn't do that well, you weren't a serious student, you changed your major in your third year, and your GPA is only a 3.3. It's not a 4.0, and you're maybe thinking you're not as competitive. This is the place where you talk about that. We often learn from failure. We don't expect perfect students or students who have all the answers. We're looking for interesting, honest, creative, hardworking students who survive, students who can innovate, students who can turn things around. So a student who had a failure, or a student who has an interesting, did you start a business and fail? Did you do something that's really very different? Did you write a book? Did you win a prize? Did you live in another country for several years? What did you learn? Did you have a really interesting job? Is there something about your family or your history that makes you stand out that's different? That's where you add, really critical information to make you stand out in your statement of purpose. Now, you don't have to know what you're going to do. Actually, if you say exactly what you're going to do, nobody will believe you, because everybody changes their mind and nobody knows the future. So you can have a vision, you can have a purpose. And if that's your passion, it's what keeps you up at night, and you just love doing, puzzle thinking about probability and statistics, and you want to pass that information on as a teacher, that's wonderful. If you're passionate about doing research on COVID or the Amazon jungle or whatever it is, talk about your passion, but be different, be unique, and let them see that you're going to be working hard and you're going to succeed, and you are going to be a credit to the graduate department, and you're going to contribute to the graduate department, and they're going to contribute to you in helping you be a leader in the future. That's what they're looking for in that statement of purpose. The other thing about the statement of purpose, have somebody read it. Have one of your faculty members read it, and have a native English speaker read it. Remember, the committee members or the graduate admissions person is reading many applications and many statements of purpose. And all things being equal, they're looking for excellence. And anything that you do or say or anything in your background that distracts you is not going to help your argument, your case on why you should be admitted. So if your statement of purpose has a lot of spelling errors or grammatical errors, or the formatting's not good, you might be admitted if everything else is strong. But if there are other people who also have interesting stories and have good standardized test scores and write really moving and passionate statements of purpose, then that's going to count against you. It'll take an extra day. Find an American friend or Canadian friend or Australian friend, somebody who's a native speaker, have them proofread, check your English. Not to write for you, it's got to be your story. But all of the reality shows, the America's Got Talent or Brazil's Got Talent, these shows are popular because these people do wonderful things, but they have really interesting stories behind their abilities. So you need to become a storyteller because you're telling your story and inviting someone else to see how wonderful a candidate you are. So think about that. I've talked about that a little bit. Statement of purpose can include your motivations. Why are you interested in forestry, or why are you such a good entrepreneur? And what experiences do you have to back that up? It's easy to say something, but prove it. You know, share your history, you have to articulate and document some of the things that you've done. You need to stand out. Our electrical engineering program probably receives 10 to 12,000 applications every year without having to do any recruitment. So how do you stand out? You know, being beautiful is not enough. Being smart is not enough. Being the first person to apply is not enough. Having the highest scores is not enough. So you need to stand out. So we're looking for things that make you stand out. I mentioned a few things that you can talk about in your statement of purpose, but anything that you've done and anything that you can do now, if you've not already applied and been accepted to a graduate program, then there may still be time for you to do some things that will help your CV, help your resume, help you stand out. And I'll talk about a few of those things. Not all graduate programs are research programs. Most are. All PhD programs are. And half the master's programs are research programs. If you don't like research, don't consider a research program. Consider a master's program that's instructional without research. But you know, do you really need a PhD program to do what you want to do? If you apply for a job for me, I don't hire people with PhDs. I only hire people with master's degrees and sometimes bachelor's degrees because I don't need researchers in my office. And if you went to Harvard, I'm not going to hire you because, well, you're not what I'm looking for. I can tell already. But if you can do research now as an undergraduate student, and we have a lot of research programs for our undergraduate students, do that. Talk about it. Even if it's not a semester long or a credit program, if you've done research, that will help you be admitted. If you've worked, if you have an industry experience, if you have a job, talk about that. That will make you more attractive to a graduate program. Internships. What have you done professionally? Many undergraduate students don't do any of that stuff. They stay home and they go to the library and they think that by getting the best grades, that's how they'll get admitted. Well, no. We would rather have a student with a above average GPA, but lots of really good industry experience and research experience and leadership experience and social living experience than someone with the top academic scores, but no social life, no cultural life, no professional life. We don't trust that kind of student. If you've given any presentations or if you've taught anything, if you've received any awards, if you've taught in church or whatever, you talk about that. That you need to stand out. There's a saying in English, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Well, I disagree. There are a lot of stupid questions, and you will not be admitted if you ask stupid questions. So do your research. If you are emailing a director of graduate programs and you say, what is the application deadline? They're going to think that you're a very lazy person because it's on the website. Why didn't you do your research? Why are you wasting my time asking questions that you should either already know or are very easily obtained on the website? They're not going to trust you doing research or to think of new solutions if you're not taking the time to do some independent research. We're looking for creative, independent thinkers, critical thinkers, people who push the limit, people who push their professors. That's what we want. So don't ask stupid questions. Apply early, mind those deadlines. You do need to apply for several schools. You might not get in every school you want, and you might not want to get into every school that you apply for. So even after you apply, continue doing research. talk to the directors of graduate programs, talk to, maybe there's a Brazilian Student Association at the university or a Latin American Student Association. You know, talk to students in the department. Our graduate departments usually have a student ambassador, a current student that students who are interested can talk to. You can email them and they can talk about the different faculty and the different research programs and the strengths and give you advice. You will get a lot of honest opinion, but do your research. When I was looking at PhD programs, I really wanted to go to the University of Chicago. It's a very famous school, it's very good. In my field, it was like the top. Well, the more research I did, I realized, well, it might be ranked in the top 3, but I already had a master's degree. And I found out that it was going to take me 7 to 8 years to get my PhD. And I thought, forget it. I'm not going to spend 8 years after my master's degree in this program. So some programs, you know, some master's programs are a year or 2 years or 3 years. PhD programs are 3, 4, or 5, in some cases more, depending on the school, the program, your faculty advisor, the type of research you're doing. So do your research so you won't be very disappointed later on, because a lot of the information is available before you go there. Mm-hmm. Then the other way to stand out, you know, really, there's another saying in English, which I do agree with, and that is, it all depends on who you know. Or in this case, maybe it's better to say, who knows you. If the director of graduate programs or a particular faculty member knows you, it's easier to get admitted, right? If there's thousands of applications and they don't know anybody, it's just, you know, they're just figures, their resumes, their applications, there's not even any faces. So how do they choose? Well, I'll tell you, a lot of our graduate students are admitted because the graduate research faculty member said, I want that student. Doesn't have to be the smartest or the one with the highest GPA, but if you are a graduate faculty research member and you've got 4 postdocs and 3 or 4 graduate students and you've got several research grants and you want to admit a few more graduate students, you can tell the director of graduate programs, I want this student. And almost always that student gets admitted, regardless of what your scores are. So how do you get to be known? Well, you have to introduce yourself. And the way you introduce yourself, if you can't be introduced by someone else like your professor or advisor who knows somebody, which is often another way to get it admitted, is to make an impression, a favorable, positive impression on that faculty member. So that's done through email. And remember, faculty and directors of graduate programs they have classes, they have research, they have administrative duties, and if they're involved in admissions, thousands of applicants are asking the questions. So be patient. Don't expect an answer right away. It might be several days. But if you ask good questions, you will get an answer. And a good question, like I said, won't be, do you have any spots in your research lab? It won't be, when's the last day I can apply? Or something vague like, what are you looking for in a graduate student? No, what you do is you go to that professor's website, because all of our faculty have a website where they talk about their CV, their research, their educational background. They list who their students are. They list their grants. They list the courses they're teaching. They list their publications. When you look at 3 or 4 different programs, then you find 2 or 3 different professors at each one of those programs, look at their website, look at their CVs, read you don't have time to read all their books, but read some of their recent monographs or their articles in Nature magazine or whatever, and do some research, do some homework, and ask them questions about their research. And say, well, I noticed, I read your monograph, and I also, read that this Berkeley professor, disagrees with you, and I had a different thought. I think this. Okay. That is a very good way to impress upon a faculty member your ability to initiate, to innovate, to do research, to have creative and critical ideas, and to speak up and step up. So even if you don't agree, you have already flattered the professor by reading their work and knowing what they're doing and doing the research enough so that you can talk about what they're doing. Don't just say, oh, you're doing the exact research that I want to do. Well, what does that mean? Be more specific. Talk about the research that you're doing or what you can't get done in Brazil that you want to get done with this professor at whatever school you're applying to. So a professor who has email inquiries like that from an overseas applicant, they will remember you, and they will shoot off an email to the director of graduate admission saying, look closely at this person. I would like this person to be in my lab. You will get in. So that's a very important piece of advice. You have to stand out. You have to be known. Let's see. I mentioned there are certain pathways that you can do now. Some things that are not very expensive or take a lot of time, but things that will help you stand out. There are different online programs. It's difficult to travel right now, but find out at your university things that you can do that will make you more interesting and more competitive. Are there some, can you volunteer in a laboratory? Can you do an internship? Are there any certificate programs? Can you learn another language? Can you learn a computer language? Can you pick up some additional skills, maybe data analytics? That's important in every field. Make yourself interesting and valuable. If you can't find it at your own university, find some other programs. I've talked with a couple of Brazilian universities, and they've got online virtual programs just like we do. And other U.S. universities have summer programs and fall programs that you can participate in. I was talking with Simone right before we started. We have a leadership program that we're doing right now for 2 weeks. Students from around the world are meeting with other students, and they're learning leadership skills. That's very, very attractive. We just finished a 2-week data science certificate program. We have a virtual research program going on with 100 students from a dozen different countries are doing research with their faculty, and they're in their home countries. They don't even have to travel here, but they're going to be able to add to their application and their resume. I did research with Dr. Smith at NC State University, and we did this, and I learned this. And that is demonstrating that you are capable of doing graduate level research in the US. That is going to help you stand out. So whether it's an internship, a volunteer position, academic program, there are thousands of things you can do to keep adding to your story, to your resume, to your application that make you really interesting and leave no doubt that you would be a good addition to a research program at the university. So I'm going to stop talking and let Steve talk for a little bit more, and then we'll answer all your questions after that.
All right. So I want to build on what Michael has said and what we've kind of touched on repeatedly through this. And I think one of the big things to think about is what comes next. So you get your degree, what happens after that? So really kind of hitting on that professional development and what kind of opportunities do you have within your department, within your college, and then within the wider community. So while you can talk to professors and ask questions about academics, you can also ask them about professional development, but there are other individuals on campus who can talk to you about opportunities for internships and jobs and connections to industry. So as you either start thinking about programs or after you arrive on campus, really dive into those and learn as much as you can about what kind of opportunities you have, because just like applying for graduate school, applying for that first job after graduate school is going to be really important. So think about as many connections and opportunities as you have to really market yourself and make yourself the best candidate for what comes afterwards. And so talking about non-academic considerations, that professional development piece is going to be really critical once you get on campus. Really finding those opportunities to do internships or take jobs while you're working in your program, and applying what you're learning in the classroom to what happens in real life and in industry can be really valuable and a great opportunity to talk about where the two work really well, where there's synergy, and where your academic work and your professional opportunity or your professional experience don't meet. And you can talk about why that's really important and how you've learned to work through that. So professional development is a key one. Finding what kind of support services are offered by your campus. Departments and colleges have all kinds of social opportunities and opportunities for you to really join the community. Every college really wants to focus on building community amongst their students and between their students and the faculty and the staff. So look into that and see what kind of opportunities are available there. What kind of things are available across the entire campus. NC State holds a bunch of big international festivals, but then also we have social activities like Division I sports and opportunities to where you can really build connections with other students, both for just friendship purposes and social purposes, but also for future professional connections. Students who come to schools like NC State go on to lead an industry, they go on to develop businesses and startups, and so having those connections can be really important. And then kind of moving into just some quick things about NC State, we're a very large university with 36,000 students. We have 5,000 international students, so when you come to a school like NC State or another big university like ours, you'll find that you'll find Brazilians amongst the student population, almost guaranteed. Lots of opportunities across academic programs. We have 60 plus doctoral programs, more than 100 master's programs covering just about any field you could imagine. So, look into your universities, make sure that you have that you've explored as many as you can so that you can pick the right ones to fit your desires and your outcome for when you graduate. So yeah, and then Michael, you can flip it to the last page, and then if you have any questions, our email addresses are on there. Please feel free to email us. We are more than happy to answer questions, or we can direct you to somebody who can. Like I said at the beginning of this presentation, I work with international students from all over the world. While I focus on a small group, you can always email me, and I'm happy to connect you to a fellow advisor or put you in touch with somebody who can answer questions that you have, or that if you want to learn more. So please contact us, let us know what we can do to help. I'm happy to be the person that you ask the dumb questions to if you have them and aren't afraid to ask, and you're afraid to ask them to a professor. While they can be dumb, sometimes you need somebody to answer the dumb question. So I'm happy to be that person. I won't even say it's a dumb question. I'm just happy to answer and provide you as much information as I can. I know Michael can too, but Michael's also very, very busy, not just working with students. So anything that we can do, please let us know. If we can provide you with that information to make you the best candidate that you can be, we're happy to do so.
Wow, so many nice, interesting aspects you talked during the session. I also want to take this opportunity to introduce you to our country coordinator, Annelise Hoffman. Annelise lived a while ago in North Carolina.
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for this inspiring session. I'm glad to see the comments of the participants here. It's an honor to have you here. Thank you, Michael and Steven. I apologize, I got a little late, so I planned to say hello in the beginning, but the session was very nice, and it's all we tell the students that I hear from you is wonderful, because you are reinforcing the aspects that we always remind them, that is, the universities are with their open doors to the students, and we hope we get more applicants for the next fall 2021, right? We are already envisioning the next year. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we love our Brazilian students. We have 5,000 international students, but to be honest, not very many Brazilians, maybe 30 brasileiros. We do have Brazilian faculty, but Simone and Annalise have both been to North Carolina, so you can ask them about their experience in North Carolina.
Yes. I was there in 2017.
And I do encourage all the students to work closely with the EducationUSA advisors. They do a great job of giving you and your friends and families good information, honest information. They don't care where you go. They just want you to go to the best school for you. And that's what we want too. We're not the best school for everybody. And I talk to a lot of students, and tell someone, don't go to NC State. If you want to study creative writing, this is not the best place for you. We're a STEM university, a technical school. If you want engineering, don't go to Harvard. That's not a good place to study engineering. So there's so many choices. It's sometimes confusing, but good luck to everybody. And yeah, we're very happy to answer any questions. Steve will take the dumb questions, and I'll take the really good ones.
I have a question, because this is the, I know it's a silly question, but I don't mind, because this is the kind of a question that we receive from students all over the place, but about RA and TA. How do students apply for, for these positions? Research assistantship and teaching assistantship. For those who are at home, could you explain a little bit about TA and RA, please?
Sure. Remember that it is sometimes different at different schools. Some universities and colleges don't have teaching assistantships or research assistantships. They're generally found at the larger universities. And again, depending on the program, some programs have a lot of money to spend in terms of graduate fellowships, teaching assistantships. Some programs don't have a lot of money. Generally, the STEM fields, the engineering programs, the sciences have more money because they have more federal grants and industry grants that will pay for the tuition and the stipends for the students to do the research and to do the teaching. It's a wonderful way to pay for your graduate program. And as importantly, it gives you a lot of really critical experience. If you want to be an instructor, you want that experience teaching, because you'll have a mentor. They will give you a lot of good curriculum development skills, opportunities to teach in the classroom. And also, if you are definitely looking to have a job in academia and be a researcher or an industry researcher, you've got to do that research, and you might as well be paid for it. But of course, if you're a research assistant, you're probably doing the professor's research, not necessarily the research you want to do. So in some ways, if you have a Fulbright fellowship, or your family's very rich, or you have some other way to pay for it and you don't need the graduate assistantship, you might have more freedom and flexibility to do your own research, and you have a little bit more power. So it is a job. I mean, they expect you to work 20 hours a week throughout the semester while you do that. Some of our departments at NC State offer every student an assistantship. They don't admit anybody unless they also give you an assistantship.
Yep.
We have some graduate departments that don't offer any assistantship. And then most of the departments will be able to support some students, but not all students. And again, some departments will do that at the beginning, at the time of application. They say, yes, we like you. We are going to give you an offer of admission, and we will give you an assistantship. We'll cover your tuition, and we'll give you a stipend of $1,200 every month, and we'll give you health insurance. Wonderful. That's a big package. Sometimes students won't get it the first year, they'll get it the second year. Or they will offer a research assistantship the first 2 years. They don't want you to do your English, and even though hopefully you're able to teach the person. So there's a couple of answers. But again, as we state, at least, it's the director of graduate admissions who makes the decision. The offer of admission and also the assistantship. So on the application, there is a place for you to mark, yes, I would like to be considered for financial aid or an assistantship. If you don't mark it, it doesn't matter. They still might consider you, and they might not. If you do mark it, they will consider you. They generally they may have a higher TOEFL requirement if you're a teaching assistant. That's very common. So if you have a low IELTS score or a low TOEFL score, it might be enough to get admitted, but you cannot be a teaching assistant the first year. you will need to be there for a while and demonstrate that your English is very easy to understand.
Michael,
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say one thing to consider is that depending on the type of assistantship you can get aid for the entire year, and others will provide you aid just for the academic year. So I think a lot of teaching assistant positions will provide you aid for the 9 months that you are in the classroom. So on the US academic calendar, that goes from August until May. A lot of research assistantship positions will provide you year-round aid because you can work on the professor's research team for the entire 12 months. So if you're considering, if you want to stay for that summer or stay every summer, those research assistantships can provide you financial aid to cover that cost for those 3 months in the summer. So keep that in mind, and as you find out, your department should tell you what kind of information or what kind of assistantship and how long your aid will last, if it's 9 months or 12 months. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, there is one question here about essay, about the statement of purpose. So Renata is saying, what's the best way to write about our experience in our state of purpose, and how to balance all the information, since the students, they have the opportunity to mention, to talk about this experience in their resume, and how to balance the resume and the essay. It's difficult for them not to copy and paste it, right? So what kind of advice you'd give to students?
Good question. Steve, you want to start?
Yeah, well, that's a tough one, actually. So I would say the resume CV should be able to stand on its own. I think your resume and CV should be able to tell a story of its own, your professional history and the basic overview of your academic history. The statement of purpose should take some of that information and provide the context for your background and kind of give the narrative of that, and then talk about moving forward, the goals, the goals, the desires, and how a particular professor's research, joining that research team, joining that department is going to help you achieve that, and what you hope to take away from that, and also what you hope to provide to the university and the larger community of individuals in that field. But that is my take on that. I would also be curious to hear, Michael, your side.
Yeah, I would say don't copy and paste.
Yeah.
You're wasting real estate.
Yep.
Yeah, don't repeat what you have in the application or in your CV. This is your chance to tell your story. I would also say don't take 10 pages to tell it. You will keep or you will lose the person in the first paragraph, the first page. If they don't like the first page, they will stop reading. So you've got to hook them in, tell them your story, make it interesting. If it's really interesting, they'll read 3 or 4 pages if they give you that much space. So don't make it too long, too short. But this is where you add the color. You put the skin on the bones. You get to tell your story. So tell your story with drama, with relish, with excitement, enthusiasm. Oi, Rita, como vai você? Nice that you joined us. It's nice to see you.
Yes. Hey, Michael, it's good to see you too. I've been hearing wonders about this webinar. Thank you for doing this.
Well, we are pleased to do it. Even I love talking to students, and of course, I love all of my Brazilian friends and family, and can't wait to come back to visit Brazil. Steve made me promise to take him with me.
Yeah, I get to go with.
Yes,
so,
please.
I hope we can come down for Falbai or some other time and visit some of the campuses and our friends down there. So,
as everyone can see, we have one more person here. This is Rita Moricorni. She is our REAC, the Regional EducationUSA Advisor for the coordinator for the Southern Cone. And hi, Rita, how are you? Good to have you here.
Fine. How are you? Sorry about that. It's great to see everybody in, and even better to see our fantastic U.S. higher education institutions addressing all the Brazilian students here. And I see there are some Brazilian universities also here. Fábio, Wag do Prado, good to see you here as well. Thank you.
Hi, Fábio. Good to have you here. Anyway, we have one more question. If Camille is asking if she could ask for a letter of recommendation from an internship supervisor, and I think yes. The answer is yes, right? This could bring some light to her application. And everyone is saying here, "Oh my God, this is so good! Thank you. You guys inspired me. I'm going to apply." So the comments are coming, and they are really good. So thank you. I don't think we have more questions. I just want to say the information shared, it was really important, and you went in straight to the point, and you guys explained what is important, what students should avoid, what students should use in their application, and things that they should not do, like writing to the admission officer or to the departments asking silly questions, but things they can easily find in the university website, the department website. This is really important. And also, you mentioned one thing that seems to be easy, but people forget, that is, you guys are going to read, I don't know, 6,000, 20,000 applications. So please, when you write your statement of purpose, think outside the box. Think that you are a person, you are not just a student. So think about talking about your life and help the reader reading your application. So this is really important. So I just want to say thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And I'm not going to say that I wish we can do this again in the future, because I know we are going to do this again.
Absolutely.
The doors are more than open for you, and we are going to be working together in promoting the U.S. higher education all over the world. And as Michael said, our goal is to promote the higher education, and we are wishing that you can apply to universities that are going to be a good fit for you. So if North Carolina Raleigh is going to be a good fit for you, yes, go for it. But there are so many other great institutions where you can choose for. So that's it. Thank you so much.
And Michael, thank you for referring us to Becky. We will have NC State participating in our pre-departure orientation next week. We really appreciate her presence. I'll be talking to her on Monday about that. So you'll be with us next time.
Yes, okay, very important to mention this here for everyone who are at home. We are going to have our pre-departure orientation on this Wednesday, Thursday, and a Friday next week. So it's 29th, 30th, 31st at 4:30 p.m., 4:30. So if you want to have more information, just go to our website, and you have the agenda, and I can add here, but you are going to find the agenda of activities, our activities, and you need to register to participate in this pre-departure orientation. The idea is to share information about visa, visto de estudante, visa, and trends. And there is going to be one person from North Carolina State talking to students about updates, and also we're going to have a panel with students, American students in the U.S., Brazilian students in the U.S. We are going to do three different activities in 3 different days. It's going to be very engaging, not just for students who are going to start their studies in the U.S., but students who are thinking about this opportunity. They learn, they listen to other people who already experienced this, and it's going to be very engaging. So I'm going to copy and paste the link here, just a second. And if you go to our agenda here, you see our agenda, not just for the EducationUSA office in Rio, but the agenda for the EducationUSA office all over the country. And if you go to day 29th, you see the, sorry, let me get the link here.
Session.
Yes, you see the link to register.
You can follow social media too, right? Our Instagram posts.
Exactly, Instagram and Facebook. If you go to EducationUSA PUC-Rio, you'll find information. If you go to EducationUSA Brazil, you'll find information to Instagram and Facebook. Okay, and the link to register for the pre-departure orientation is right there. Okay, thank you so much. Have a good evening, and remember, we are here to help you. Mike and Stephen, thank you.
Thank you very
Our
much.
pleasure. Thank you.
We enjoyed it.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Good luck. Best wishes.
Ciao. Ciao, ciao. I will
Bye.
share the recorded link with you later, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.